Do you have an old Raspberry Pi lying around? If so, you can put it to use as a file server, so you can share files on your home network. You don't need the latest and greatest Raspberry Pi to set up a file server. We're going to use an older Raspberry Pi. As you can see from this photo, our Pi was manufactured in 2011. With an SD card and the Raspbian Linux distribution, we'll put it to work as a file server on our home network using an application called Samba. We have an 8GB and a 32GB SD card. You can use the 8GB card, but you'll have to install a light version of Raspbian, and you won't have lots of room to share files, but it will work. We opted to use our 32GB card. This will allow us to install the full version of Raspbian and have lots of room to share files. Okay, let's get started by formatting the card. Our MacBook Pro has an SD card reader built in. If you don't have access to an SD card reader, an alternative is to order an SD card that comes with the operating system installer. There are plenty of sellers on eBay who offer this. Also, when we go to the web page to download the software, I'll show you links on the page where you can order a pre-formatted card. Alright, let's go ahead and format the card. After the card's in the reader on your Mac, open Disk Utility. Now your card will show up on the left-hand side. And if it hasn't been formatted before, it'll probably say no name like it does here. So go ahead and select that and then click Erase. Go ahead and give it a name. We'll name ours Raspberry Pi. Now for the format, we're going to choose MS-DOS FAT. And then when you're ready, click Erase. So it'll format it fairly quickly. And when you're all done, go ahead and click Done. Alright, now we're ready to download the files. I'll put a link to the Noobs website. What is Noobs? Well, it stands for New Out-of-the-Box Software. So we're going to go ahead and download the zip from this website. And it'll take a while to download depending on your internet connection. As I mentioned before, at the top of this page, you'll see several links to companies that sell the pre-formatted Noobs SD card. So if you are going to order the card, you can go ahead and skip the step here where we download the software and then copy the files onto the SD card. So I'll go ahead and speed this up and then come back. Alright, now that the files are downloaded, we can go ahead and copy into our card. So you can see the files are extracted to a folder here called Noobs. And what you want to do is copy the contents of this folder, not the folder itself. Because if you copy the folder itself, the top level folder to the SD card, the Pi won't boot up because it won't be able to find the boot files. So go ahead and copy them to the SD card as shown here. And this will take a few minutes to copy over. But as soon as that's done, we can go ahead and boot up the Pi. So I'll go ahead and speed this up and then come back. Okay, copy all the files over and put the SD card in our Raspberry Pi, turn the power on, and the Noobs installer is slowly booting up. You can see here that it's going to present us with a menu. Now the top two options are ones that come on the card. You can see on an icon to the right that it shows an SD card. That means these are on the card. But if you want to install something different, such as Raspbian Lite down there at the bottom, you'll need an interconnection to do that. We hooked up our Pi with an Ethernet connection to show you what options are available if you're using an 8GB card and you need to install Raspbian Lite. So go ahead and choose the Raspbian full version, click Install. Yes. So this is going to take a while. It might be a good time to take a coffee break or maybe to go on a walk. So at this point, I'll go ahead and speed this up and then come back. So if you happen to be watching your installation and it's showing 100%, go ahead and remain patient and let it run through. We did this more than once, and every time it got to 100%, it just stayed there for a while. You can see the GUI there displaying different images. So go ahead, hang in there, don't reboot or try to start over, because chances are it's not stuck, it's just slowly extracting the last bit of information to the SD card. Now when it is done, you'll see a little pop-up that says that the OS was successfully installed. That's good news, so go ahead and click OK. Raspbian will boot up for the first time. Now if you haven't used this operating system before, it's been officially offered by the Raspberry Pi Foundation since 2015. I think it was started in 2012, and it's optimized to work with the ARM processors that the Raspberry Pi uses. Okay, so once it finishes booting up, you'll be presented with a menu. So you'll configure a few things here. Go ahead and set your country and language. We are in the United States. You can set the time zone as well. Okay, click next. It might take a minute or two for the country to be configured, but after that's done, it'll ask you to change the password of the user Pi. Now when the Linux operating system was first installed, it automatically created a user called Pi. So it's always a good idea to change the default password. Okay, so we'll do that now. Go ahead and type in a new password and confirm it. Then click next. Alright, after it changes the password, it asks you if you like the screen. So we're going to go ahead and just accept this. Now it's going to ask us to update the software. So we can either do this now, using the wizard, or later using the command line. We'll go ahead and do it now since we're going to need to do it anyways. So this will take a while. We'll go ahead and speed this up. Alright, now that the system's update, go ahead and click OK and restart. Now that first update that we just did, that's updating the operating system. We still need to install or update all of the applications on Linux and also Samba, but we'll do that in just a little bit. Now we're connected to our Raspberry Pi with a keyboard, mouse, and monitor to do all this. But after you restart, if you need to connect to your Pi remotely using SSH, we'll show you how to configure that now. So on the upper left hand corner, just click on the Raspberry Pi, then go to Preferences, Configuration. A pop-up will come up. It'll take just a little bit the first time. So go ahead and click on Interfaces and then enable SSH. So after you click OK here, you can connect with the username Pi and then give it the password that you set earlier when you were going through the wizard. So we're going to continue doing this just using our keyboard and mouse. Alright, now that that's done, we can go ahead and do some more updates. Now before, we used the wizard to install the OS updates, but if you didn't, if you skipped it, you can do it again here. So here's the command that you have to type in, and it'll go through and read all the packages and see if there's anything to update. Now it won't find anything for us because we already updated. So we'll let that run. Alright, it's almost done. So now that the OS has been upgraded, we need to update all the programs on the computer. So go ahead and issue this command, sudo apt-get upgrade. It'll go through to look at all the packages that are installed and then get the latest versions. Alright, that finished fairly quickly, and now we can get or install Samba. So go ahead and type in sudo apt-get install Samba and let it run. This will take a minute or two. Go ahead, type yes there to continue. That'll just go to the internet and download and install everything we need. So far it looks good, no errors. So while that's working, we'll go ahead and open up a terminal and we'll do some configuration. So we're going to we need to set up a share drive on this machine. So go to Media, which is a folder already, or a directory already installed, and we're going to create a directory called Share. Now you need to be the super user to do this. So we got the screen when we were installing Samba. We use a DHCP server, so we went ahead and clicked yes. So back to the share directory, go ahead and make a directory called share, and then we're going to set the permissions to 777, which is open permissions for everyone. So keep in mind, if you're going to use these permissions, everybody who is able to log into the Samba server will have access to the files on it. Okay, now we've got our directory. Software's still installing, almost done. Alright, now it's all done. So let's go ahead and configure Samba. Now I don't know what editor you like to use, but I'm old school, so I use VI here. Good, sudo VI, and then the name of this config file in the etc directory. Go ahead and open that up. This was installed for us when Samba was installed. Now you can see in here several different shared directories that have been set up. We're going to go down to the bottom and create one of our own. We're going to call it Raspberry Share. This is the name that's going to show when we connect to Samba. Seems like a good name. So we'll do an additional bit of configuration here. So we'll type in these variables: public, whether or not it's writable. Yes, we can write to it. Whether it's browsable. Yes, we want people to be able to browse it. We'll also type in this information, which is the path, which is the media share directory that we set up. And then we'll set up this mask to open up permissions if they want to create a file there or a directory. So continue with the configuration. If that all looks good, go ahead and save your changes. Now we need to create a user that can access the share drive. Now this is going to be different than the user that Linux set up when we first started. So we'll go ahead and issue a command here. Just create a user and a password. Now to keep it simple, we'll name the user Pi and then enter a password, confirm it. Now this is the user and password that we'll enter when we connect to the Samba server from a different computer. Now that we've entered the password, go ahead and issue this command to restart Samba. Alright, now that everything's set up and configured, let's go ahead back to the share drive and create a file. Now it doesn't have to be fancy. We'll just create a simple text file and put some text in it just to let us know that it was created here on the share drive. So we'll type this in. Okay, go ahead and save that. Okay, now we're ready to test your file server. To connect to it from our Mac, we need to know the IP address of the Linux machine. So we'll find that out by issuing a command. Here we go. It's called hostname-i, that's the capital I. On the left will be the IP address of the Raspberry Pi. So go ahead and make a note of that, and then we'll switch over to the Mac. Alright, so to connect to the file server on the Mac, choose Go, Connect to Server. Then you're going to type in smb:// then the IP address of your Raspberry Pi, and then another slash and the name of the profile that you set up in the Samba config file. If you remember, we named ours Raspberry Share. So go ahead and type that in, and as soon as it's correct, go ahead and click Connect. Now it's going to connect, and it's going to prompt you for username and password. Make sure you connect as a registered user, and then enter the username and password of the Samba user. Go ahead and type that in, click connect. If everything works out, we'll connect to the file server. And there it is. You can see that it is showing us that there's a file, text file on there. So go ahead and double click on that. We'll open it up. Yep, that's the one we created on the Raspberry Pi. You can see that we didn't have any problems opening it up. There weren't any permission issues. Now let's go ahead and create one ourselves on the Mac and then save it to the file server. So we'll type in a little message here and save it to the share drive. Go ahead and connect Raspberry share, and then we'll give it a name. Create it on the Mac. Should be good. Everything looks good there. Go ahead and hit save. Okay, now we can go back over to the Linux box and take a look at the file we just created. Alright, here we are back on the Linux machine. Let's go ahead and do an ls in the directory and see what we got. And there's a file we just created. And we'll go ahead and open it up and just look at it. And there it is. Great. Alright. As of now, you've got a working file server that you can use on your home network. Now there is one thing that I wanted to mention, and that is when we connected to the file server, in addition to the Raspberry Pi, Raspberry Share, there was also another directory called Pi. And what that was the user, the Linux user of the machine. So when Samba is installed in the configuration file, it automatically allows users to browse or see the directories of every user on the machine. So if you go back into your config file and just search for homes, down there you'll see that it enables this by default. So under homes, if you don't want this to be shown, just simply comment it out. Alright, that wraps it up for this video. If you have any comments, please leave them below. Thanks for watching.